About 3 weeks ago, Mrs. Piatek came into the senior lounge and asked if I would say a few words at the homecoming assembly. And, I hate to do that, so I put her off for about a week and talked to my wife and finally said, well, it was an honor to be asked. So when I asked her, what do you want me to dwell on? She says, there's no one that knows the history of the school as well as you do. And would you pass some of that along? So that's my intention today. Under the leadership of Bishop Curtis, way back, St. Joseph High School opened at St. Stephen's Elementary School, who was also celebrating their 50th year today in Monroe. Since that time, the name has changed from St. Stephen's to St. Jude's. And at that time, St. Stephen's opened up with 4 rooms being occupied on the first floor, and St. Joseph had 4 rooms on the second floor. This school was being built at that time. Now you see the construction out front. And I just wanted to let Mr. Mayo and Dr. Fitzgerald know that this school was put up for $1,750,000. Okay, quite a difference now. Tuition in those days, $200. Okay. We started out as a co-institutional school. What that means is that the boys and the girls are completely separate. There's no co-ed classes. The girls had 2 rooms at St. Jude's, and the boys had 2 rooms at St. Jude's. And then we moved in here in '63. Monsignor Lorello was the first principal. He served for 2 years here, one at St. Jude's or St. Stephen's at the time, and one here. And he added 2 more lay people to the staff. That was a good friend of mine, Mr. Tom Roach, who's since retired, and our first school nurse, Mrs. Julia Fry. The girls' administration staff had the main office that you see on the first floor corridor now. The boys' administrative staff had the offices that Father has, that Mr. Dempsey has, and Sister has. That was the boys' administrative offices. You'd find the principal there, the assistant principal there, and anyone else that, had a position at the time. When they decided to, the school itself was going to be strictly what a time for my cell phone to ring, huh? Must be my wife. When the bishop said we're going to have a co-institutional school, that meant that after a period of time, the girls were going to get their own school. This was to be a boys' school strictly. The brothers lived up in that house up on a hill, and the brothers were the Marist brothers from New York. They were in charge of the boys' unit here. The nuns that we had were the School Sisters of Notre Dame. Now the bishop purchased a great big piece of land up on Daniels Farm Road, and where present Bishop Laurie lives. That was the home for the nuns that were assigned to St. Joseph High School. And behind the school was a tremendous area of land, just beautiful property. By the way, that is now the Gate of Heaven Cemetery. And that was to have been the girls' school land and also their athletic fields. Once he decided, Bishop Curtis, in 1970, that it wasn't going to be a go to build another high school, he made this a coeducational school and put in charge Brother Joseph Kelly as the first principal for since Monsignor Lorello, where he had it 2 years. Once we went coeducational, and they moved up to the main office, and that's how we've progressed. Now, in December of '73, we almost closed our doors. We had a directive given to us by Bishop Curtis, and it was come up with so much money, and by the middle of March, this was told in December, and if you don't, you're going to close the doors. Now, I look at the school now, I look at what's going on in the back, I look at what's going on in the front. I couldn't imagine this place not being filled with students and turned into condominiums, because that's probably what it would have been. But we got help from parishes. They had special collections. We got help from alumni. It was only a few classes. We got help, great help from parents. We got help from students. We ran a swim-a-thon. The walkathon wasn't there as yet. And, but just so much energy put in by the students, by the faculty. We had to go out and speak to people. WICC gave us time on the air for a whole week, and we capitalized on that. We got over the hump. We began to feel we were solid. And a couple of years later, Monsignor Richard Shea became principal, and that was in '76. He had served 10 years as director of guidance and now was moved to principal of St. Joseph High School. In '83, he built that wing off the end of the building, which houses the advancement office, which houses guidance above it, and then on the third floor, the computer area and a classroom. Also, once we got over the hump where we almost, had our doors shut, our athletic department began to, make great strides. In '75, we won our first state championship in boys basketball. In '76, we won our first. We won our first state championship in boys cross country, and it's up there in the corner.